Hello and welcome to Passport to Pittsburgh Adventures. I'm Kim Adley, your host and virtual tour guide on adventures in and around the Pittsburgh area. Today, our episode is going to take a look back and a look forward as we remember solemnly the events of October 27th, 2018, when a mass shooting occurred at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Squirrel Hill. To help me today, I'm very pleased to have a special guest, Mr. Tim Hines. Tim is a local South Hills business owner. He owns Trailblaze Creatives and grew up in the South Hills and has a very special story to tell. Tim, I'm so glad you're here with me today.
Thank you for having me, Kim.
It's my pleasure. First, I want to ask you about your connection to the South Hills and your business, Trailblaze Creatives.
Yeah, so I grew up in Whitehall, went to Baldwin High School, lived my whole life in Pittsburgh, whole life basically in the South Hills, except for 1 year where I was lived in Squirrel Hill. And I currently live in South Park, and that's where I started my business. We've got 4 employees. It is Trailblaze Creative, and we are a full-service marketing firm that focuses on helping nonprofits and municipalities better tell their story and better use their resources for positive messages.
That's wonderful. And that's great to know that you have a great, wonderful South Hills connection for our viewers.
Absolutely.
So today, the episode is about looking back at what happened on October 27th. And as we know, a massive, the most horrific shooting on anti-Semitic shooting occurred in the United States that day at the Tree of Life Synagogue. And so much has happened since then. It's 1 year. But I'd like to go back to begin and kind of tell me, where were you on that day and what happened?
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the events, especially for Pittsburghers, where I think we can all think back to where we were at whenever we hear that news that something has happened.
Yes.
And I was helping a friend move in Greenfield. I was in a moving truck outside. It was a rainy day, rainy Pittsburgh October day, as they often are. And there were a lot of kids running around, and I was outside because I didn't want to deal with all the running around of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I was helping in the moving truck. And that's important because I was outside. You know, I could hear sirens.
Yes.
I couldn't stay all day. I had to leave early, around 10:30 or so. But I remember hearing sirens, and I'm from South Park. You know, we don't have a ton of sirens out this way. So,
Right.
So it's I didn't know if it was odd or if it was maybe a fire or what. So on my way home, I got the alert that there was a mass shooting in Pittsburgh, and I come home and I come to find out that it was at the Tree of Life. Mm-hmm. And I had work to do. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I work all the time. So it's a Saturday late morning, and I pop open my computer and I start doodling.
Doodling. And so I'm sure that you watched the news after that and you found out that it was such a great loss of life. As we should remind people that 11 people were killed,
Right.
11 souls lost, and they were in the synagogue during worship when the gunman entered and tragically killed 11 people and injured 7 others. So it was very unlike anything we've ever experienced here, of course, in the country and especially in Pittsburgh.
Right. Yeah, it was very sobering, I think, for all of us to
Yes.
see these images and these people that we know on TV. You know, whether
Exactly.
it's, you know, our mayor or our police chief. You know, you see these faces that are our community members, and that really it really hits home. And I was watching the news as I was doodling. So
Sure.
So that was happening. Yeah.
So you're watching the news and you're dealing with your feelings about this and you're doodling, which is what you do in your work, right? You're a graphic designer, creative designer.
It's a little bit more professional than that,
More
but
than-
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So right. And so, tell me then, how did the process come about to create? We of course are focusing on today a design that you made, and I'm not sure I want to show the viewers that you were the creator of this design, which has become extremely popular this past year and has helped many to deal with the tragedy that occurred on October 27th. And this design, Stronger Than Hate. And so tell us a little bit about the process that you went through to create that design then as you're sitting there thinking.
Well, I started playing around with shapes, started playing around with meaning in my head. I was trying to understand, what had happened, as all of us were. I was processing it. And, I kept coming back to how this is so monotonous, that we have this, we have a tragedy in Boston, we have a tragedy in Orlando, in Parkland, and it's always Orlando's strong, or Boston's strong, or Parkland's strong. And this one was different to me because it was my hometown, and Pittsburgh's different.
Yes.
So I didn't want to have it be monotonous. My personal tribute to be monotonous. So I started, with the symbol for steel.
Right.
And as steel can't be broken, neither can the resiliency of Pittsburghers was my thought process behind that, and then the Star of David, obviously to represent the Jewish community that was attacked. It was kind of a natural progression. I mean, it's a very basic, simple symbol. But sometimes I think whenever it's not that cerebral, sometimes that's whenever the best things happen. Whenever it's from the heart.
Exactly. And so in this process of creating this design, it was helping you cope with what was going on during that day. So, of course, as Pittsburghers, it's very recognizable as a Steeler symbol.
Sure.
But when you were doing that, were you thinking about that?
I knew that people would recognize it as a Steeler symbol. And that's one of the reasons why I chose to put the Star of David at the top. I didn't want to put a religious symbol below what would be perceived by many as a sports symbol. So the Star of David was at the top and replaced the yellow hypocycloid.
That's what they call that shape,
That's
the
what
hypocycloid.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, it certainly is extremely recognizable to all Pittsburghers. And so you create this symbol, and it's helping you cope with the horrific events. And then what do you do? How did it become viral?
Well, I think that you think about the resiliency of a community, and if you look at the definition of the word resiliency, it's acting quickly. The shooting started just before 10 o'clock that morning, and this symbol was posted on Facebook by myself at 12:06 p.m.
Wow,
So
quickly.
that same day, so within almost 2 hours, that's when the symbol was posted, and I posted it privately. This was my own tribute.
Just on your page, just to show your solidarity
Exactly.
in being against hate towards
Right.
the event.
And for those not on Facebook, that means
Yes.
that only the people that I'm connected with can see it.
Yes.
No one else can see it. And a friend of mine asked me if I would share it publicly so that they could share it because it spoke to them. And I, of course, said yes. I was honored that you thought it was a great tribute, and I made it public, and from there it kind of took off.
Wow. And so how long then before you started seeing it everywhere?
I had, so that day, I posted it, and I see it go up to 30 shares and 40 shares and 60 shares.
You can
And
see that happening
can
on
see
your
it real
social
time.
media is amazing. You
Yeah.
can see that happening. Yeah.
So, I closed my computer. My dad had come over to my house. We were doing home repairs that day, and we went off and did that, and we took a break and came back a few hours later to watch the news. And I opened my computer again, and it's at, 200, 300, 500 shares, and when it hit 500, 600, I said to my dad, who does not understand social media,
Right.
I said, I think something's happening here, and even he could understand that and see that, because the numbers just kept going. So I think from my personal page, it's been shared about 4,000 times. But I had very close friends that should have seen that post from me.
Yes.
See it first on Twitter or on Instagram. I mean, people were saving it and they were copying it and they were using it in other locations. And by that evening, I was on a three separate conversations over Twitter with CNN, WTAE, and Bill Peduto. And I knew at that point that
This was big.
something was happening, and I was offering, if there's anything I can do to provide it in a better way, please let me know, because it's now Pittsburgh's symbol.
So how did that make you feel when this all just started snowballing like that?
Pretty quickly. I mean, even to this day, it's hard to look back and say that that's something that I created, because I look at it, I think, through the same lens that everyone else does. As a Pittsburgher, that's our symbol. It's all of ours.
Right.
So it's very, it was surreal, and still remains to be surreal. But it's, I'm proud of the fact that happened, and I think it's, it's an important story to tell, just because, that shooter came from our communities in the South here.
Yes, I know.
And I feel that, through the encouragement of others, that this story is important to tell, because I feel that this story is more representative of who we are as people from the South Hills of Pittsburgh than that shooter.
As part of our episode today, Stronger Than Hate, I'm visiting the place where the horrific acts occurred 1 year ago, October 2018. I'm here at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Squirrel Hill. After the terrible episode occurred, this corner was covered in blue tarps, depressing and reflecting the sadness of this community. Through the year, a committee from the Tree of Life decided that this is not what the congregation wanted to reflect to the community. And instead of a dark, depressing blue tarp, that they should provide a canvas that shows the hope and inspiration that they hope would come from the tragedy. So today, we are looking back and looking forward at this beautiful art installation here at the Tree of Life Synagogue that was dedicated in September 2019. It's called Hearts Together, the Art of Rebuilding. It's a collection of over 101 art submissions by children from around the country and around the world. The committee started the campaign throughout the year, and they received over 234 submissions of art, showing solidarity, showing love, showing inspiration and support for the people who experienced this tragedy. Of the 234, 101 were chosen to be displayed on the current tarp, the current plain white canvas that shows the beautiful artwork from children from Columbine, Colorado, from Sandy Hook, and from Orlando, Florida, and as far away as New Zealand. I'm so happy I met someone so special here viewing the exhibit, Hearts Together. And this is Judy Brody. How are you, Judy?
I'm hanging in there.
Yes.
It's very moving.
Oh, my goodness. I can imagine.
Yeah.
I noticed you immediately because you're wearing a shirt that that I am focusing this episode on, Stronger Than Hate. And can you tell me about why you wear it and how it makes you feel?
Well, I just went to the JCC,
Yes.
Jewish Community Center, and I usually like to wear it there, but I wear it other places, and if I don't have it on, I wear the pin. Stronger for Hate, or my other Make America Kind Again.
Yes.
So those are my two pins that I wear. No diamonds, no jewelry, just those pins.
That's all you need, right? And so the symbol, what does it mean to you?
It means that I'm proud to be Jewish. It means that I have faith in our world, our country. We have a lot of healing to do in this country, and I have faith that it's going to come before I'm gone.
Me too, Judy. I do. And this beautiful art installation, I saw you were admiring the artwork from the children. And does it give you some hope?
It gives me inspiration that these young people have such beautiful thoughts in their mind and are looking forward to the future and hopefully to make things better. And I saw a lot from the school that had that horrible
Yes.
shooting, and yet there's some children that still have hope and inspiration for the future.
And those little young minds, they can inspire us too. So thank you so much for sharing your feelings and your thoughts with us. Remember, love, not hate.
Right.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. I can imagine that you might have gotten a phone call from maybe someone who said, that's maybe our symbol. And who did you hear from?
So it was about the Tuesday after the incident where I got a call from a friend who worked at the same law firm that represented the Steelers. And he said, hey, you're not in trouble, but someone wants to talk to you. So I got on the phone with the lawyer that represents the Steelers. At that point, looking back to Sunday, I'd actually posted the image on a website in a high resolution format for folks to download, but they had to answer 3 questions first.
Oh.
They had to agree that they would use it for good and not evil. They have to agree that they would not profit from it, and that any profits would go to anti-hate groups in the city of Pittsburgh or the Victims Fund. That right there was downloaded about 2,000 times. So it went on, T-shirts and buttons, and that's kind of how that went.
So you
went
sort of
around.
anticipated the power of it, and you made people qualify it before
Absolutely.
taking it. That was so smart of you.
Well, I knew that it was a symbol first, and yeah, people are going to throw it on a T-shirt, and people are going to try to profit off of it.
Yes.
So from the very beginning, I wanted it made known that I was not trying to do that.
Exactly.
To date, I still have not made a dime off of anything related to the symbol itself. And I think that, back to the Steelers, they wanted to, they shared in that vision.
Yes.
They wanted to help. They knew that people were going to profit off of it, and because it does closely resemble something that they use,
Exactly.
even though the intent was the image of steel, they said, we want to help. So they said, if you sign over merchandising rights to us, we'll help go after the people that are trying to profit off of it, and carry out the spirit that you had intended with the symbol. But I still maintain design rights to it. So,
Well, that's good.
yeah.
So over this last year, I know that you made a presentation at a Steeler game. How much money have the Steelers raised for good through the sale of this T-shirt and your symbol?
At that time, it was $70,000. That was at the end of last season.
Yes.
To date, I don't have exact numbers right now, but I know it's significant, and I know that the check was presented to the Jewish Federation, and the Steelers continue to be great partners in getting those proceeds to the right place.
That's so good to hear. And if our viewers want to purchase a T-shirt and make sure that they're purchasing the legitimate T-shirt where funds do go to the Jewish Federation, how do they do that, Tim?
So the name of the company that is authorized by the Steelers to do
Yes.
that is Underground Printing. And if you do a search for Underground Printing Stronger Than Hate, you'll come right to it. And I'm sure you can probably post a link, right?
We are going to post a link
Great.
at the end of the program so that people can make sure that when they buy the symbol and wear it proudly, that they know that it's going to help and to do good.
And I think that that's one important point to make, that people take for granted and want to show their support, and that's wonderful.
Yes.
That they do that. I've received feedback from the Jewish community from all over the world that have said, this means so much to us because for decades we thought that we couldn't wear our symbol of our religion on our person and walk down the street without fear of some sort of persecution or comment.
Yes.
And now to see people that are non-Jewish wear
Every
this shirt
faith,
everywhere,
every ethnicity wearing
it means
it.
so much.
Yeah.
So the feedback that I've gotten relative to others that are non-Jewish wearing this shirt, it does mean so much, even more than the tragedy.
In my quest to explore the Stronger Than Hate theme, I find myself at another location here in Pittsburgh, on the beautiful Cathedral of Learning lawn at the University of Pittsburgh campus, to explore a wonderful art installation that opened here on October 18th, 2019, and will be here until November 15th, 2019. The exhibit is called Lest We Forget, and is in collaboration with the Holocaust Center of Pittsburgh and the University of Pittsburgh as well. It features larger-than-life photographic portraits of Holocaust survivors, and really is so moving. Let's take a walk and explore it together. So I'm so happy to run into you here today, Abigail, at the Lest We Forget exhibit.
Yes.
Yes, Abigail, you are a Pitt student. And what year are you in here?
I'm a junior here.
A junior. Are you from Pittsburgh?
No, I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Lancaster. Well,
Yes.
welcome to Pittsburgh.
Thank you.
So what drew you to come and look at the exhibit here today?
So I have class in Kathy right behind us, the cathedral.
Kathy.
Yes.
This is short for Cathedral
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Learning. And so you walk past it every day.
I have been. I saw they set it up, I think, recently. So,
Right.
yeah, I grew up like learning about, I was homeschooled. I grew up learning about the Holocaust, and I loved, I loved like just learning about it and like hoping that we can learn from the past. And so I wanted to check this out.
Here we are at the Lest We Forget exhibit on the Cathedral of Learning lawn, and I ran into some friends from the South Hills, Mike and Pat Rutkowski.
Right.
And you guys are from
Upper St. Clair.
Upper St. Clair.
Right.
And so I saw that you were looking at the art exhibit here. And what brought you here today?
Well, I did see it in the paper, lest we forget,
Yes.
and I did want to come down and see it, knowing it was an outdoor exhibit, and we have a lot of interest of it, and it's important to come and read and see it, and it's a beautiful exhibit.
And we traveled to Poland last year on a vacation
Oh, did
and
you?
visited the area of Poland where my grandfather was from.
Uh-huh. And so you see here when you read some of the survivors' bios, which are next to these magnificent portraits of
And
photography
how many of
portraits.
them were from Poland
many
and the Ukraine.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Poland and the Ukraine. So are you familiar with the Stronger Than Hate emblem that was created for Pittsburgh after this tragedy last year at the Tree of Life Synagogue?
Yes, and I think I love the logo, and I do have a shirt, and
Do you?
it just is, it just brings Pittsburgh together.
We know what positive feedback you've received from creation of the symbol and the use of the symbol for good. I wanted to ask you about the reaction of the Jewish community to the symbol itself. And
Yeah, and it's mostly
if it was
been-
all positive. Yeah.
Mostly.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, for 2 weeks, I responded to people from all over the world, and I was just emailing them back, and they were emailing me thanks and telling me their story, and I felt the need to reach out to each person and respond in some way, and I did. But yeah, as any designer will tell you, critiques happen with any design.
Of course.
So I did receive a couple of critiques in that, I should have perhaps made the star blue instead of yellow. The reason behind that was, number one, I didn't want to have what I knew would be perceived as a sports symbol. I didn't want a religious symbol to be below that, so I wanted that to be on top. Also, the black and gold, the
Yeah.
black background, the gold star, I think
Right.
is representative of Pittsburgh as well.
Sure.
As the symbol for steel. But I really don't know that it would have gone as viral if the star had been blue, because with the star being yellow, and for those that aren't aware, that was it's seen as a symbol of shame, and
Yes,
you know, with
during
many
the Holocaust.
Right.
And yes,
Right, so
they
as
had to
they-
wear the yellow star.
right, they
exactly.
were it was a form of identification of their religion.
Sure.
So that's why it's seen traditionally as blue. But now that that star is yellow and it's next to the Stronger Than Hate, you know, this symbol not only takes on meaning from Pittsburgh, but now it takes into consideration generations of hate that the Jewish faith has seen as a result. So it's not just a Pittsburgh shirt. It's now a shirt that represents love and support throughout generations. And other people have taken it, and you know, other designers have changed it. You know, in Israel, they've actually changed the words "stronger than hate" and put it in Hebrew and
Oh,
other
okay,
languages. So it's been
yes.
translated and.
In many languages. I
Many
wanted to ask
languages.
you what the wider reach
Yeah.
of it is.
And the coolest thing that I saw that I've been privileged to receive from someone was it was spray painted on the John Lennon Wall in Prague.
Oh, wow.
And the John Lennon Wall is this wall that represents peace and hope and messages of peace and hope. And people kept spray painting these messages of peace and hope on it, and they just let it change. So it's this changing art installation, and someone spray painted on there real large, and it was a wonderful tribute. That was only a few
Some
days after.
graffiti art on
Yeah.
the John Lennon Wall. So through all this process, and it's been a year now, and you look back reflectively, what lessons have you learned, Tim?
Well, I think that you know, obviously there's trolls. You learn to deal with trolls whenever you have something that is so public and so widespread,
Yes.
which is unfortunate. And you know, I see that as the perpetuation of hate and not what the symbol represents. But earlier in that same week, I had a friend who was who had received some anti-Semitic remarks, and in doing that, I had an opportunity to say something to the person that made those remarks, and I didn't do it. I can think back to that morning, and I was getting ready, and I was thinking, am I going to say anything? What should I say? What's the right message to say? And I didn't. And then this happens 2 days later. And I wasn't consciously thinking about that situation whenever I was making the symbol, but I can't help but think that it had some sort of, you know, background
That you
information.
wanted to be
Background,
proactive.
background in the back
Yeah.
of my head. It was swirling around there. So I think understanding and being able to recognize hate and then doing something about it. I used to think that it was just enough to, you know, not be racist, not be sexist. You know, well, I'm not racist, so you know,
Right.
that doesn't apply to me. Well, you have to stop it. You know, the only way we're going to combat hate is with love. So we need to make sure that our messages, as we interact with people throughout the South Hills and throughout our community and throughout our world, that we're interacting with messages of love and hope. You know, I'm a nobody. I say that I'm a nobody. I'm a guy next door that happened to again be doing what he does every day. So I use my own skills and talents that I use every day and put them for good. And we all have that. You know, everyone here has that.
Exactly.
And people need to recognize that they have skills, that their skills matter and they can make a difference.
Thanks so much for joining me today on this very thought-provoking Passport to Pittsburgh adventure as we explored the past and looked forward to the hopeful future and the Stronger Than Hate logo that inspires us all here in Pittsburgh. I hope that you will want to explore more and visit some of the sites that we visited today. But more importantly, I hope that this show will make you look at things a little bit differently. To know that out of tragedy there is hope, and that we must put hate aside and always be proactive to focus on love. Thanks so much. See you again on my next Passport to Pittsburgh adventure.